So we are back to talk about Nagorno-Karabakh and what is going on there. This is a landlocked region between Armenia and Azerbaijan. We have talked about this, you and I, a number of times, doing breakdown videos on what is happening there because most of the world has no idea what is going on in that ongoing escalating conflict. But there was big news this week as we speak. Fill us in a little bit on what is happening.
Right. So the last big war in Karabakh happened in 2020. And at that time, Azerbaijan conquered most of the territory all around the enclave. And so there's only one road that connects the 120,000 Christians who live in this enclave to the rest of the world. And it's protected by a Russian peacekeeping force. And yesterday, a group of Azerbaijani activists and soldiers went to that road and blocked it. And it's been blocked for the last 36 hours. So there are people who need medical treatment in Karabakh who cannot get it. They cannot leave through the road. There are people who are visiting family in Armenia and now cannot go back home. And just actually an hour ago, we learned that Azerbaijan has now turned off all the fuel pipes into Nagorno-Karabakh. So it's winter in Karabakh. It's in the mountains. And now they have no fuel for heating, for generators, for electricity. All the schools in the region are going to be closed tomorrow because there's no gas.
So this is a dire situation. There's a couple of things you mentioned that I want to unpack because it's complex. This is something that has been going on, as you mentioned, for quite some time. You have 120,000 Armenian Christians, correct, who are living in this area. So it's a majority Christian population, correct, in that area?
Yeah, basically 100% Christian. Yes.
Now, you have Russian peacekeeping troops, as you mentioned. Now, we all know what is going on with Russia and Ukraine and the chaos there. And so you have to wonder how much, Russia seems to probably be the only thing holding back a full takeover potentially of this area. But Russia is also dealing with a mess of their own making, right? So they're weakened right now. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but I think it is an important part of this complex scenario, that role that Russia has played.
That's absolutely the case. When Azerbaijan attacked Karabakh 2 years ago, they probably would have conquered the whole thing and ethnically cleansed the Christian population if Russia had not stepped in at the last second and kept them from conquering the whole region. So Russia really is the only power in the region that's strong enough and willing to stop Azerbaijan from doing this. And because of Russia's horrific invasion of Ukraine, that is not going well for them, they are now a lot weaker as well. And so it's very clear for the last 8 months, Azerbaijan has been testing. They've been seeing, will Russia react to this? If we take over this village, what will Russia do? If we do a little checkpoint on the road, what will Russia do? If we attack the Republic of Armenia itself for 2 days and kill hundreds of people, what will Russia do? And Russia has not been doing very much. And so it seems like Azerbaijan thinks that this is their time to move.
What do you think motivates Russia's interest in, and it may be a very simple answer that a lot of us don't know because this doesn't get a lot of coverage, but in playing that peacekeeping role?
I think this is a way for Russia to keep some sort of power in the region. If they didn't have that peacekeeping role, they might not have anyone to pay attention to them in the region. But because they're there, both Azerbaijan and Armenia and Turkey to some extent have to deal with them. So it's just a geopolitical interest for them, really.
And so you mentioned, obviously, this road that's being blocked. It started out with activists who, it was almost like, that when you read about it, it seems like it was made to look like these activists went out to do this, but they were backed by the government, obviously, and Azerbaijan backing them and providing support for that. And that has sort of grown. So they're blocking this road. There's no other real way in on land to come in there. And as you mentioned, the fuel source is cut off. I know electricity has been an issue. You have people who might need medical care, I would imagine, right? People who might need to get out or get in. You mentioned some of those people. I don't know if you want to underscore that because I think it's easy to say, oh, they're blocking a road. But when it's the only way in, that's life or death for people.
It's the only way. It's the only way to bring in medicine. It's the only way in to bring fuel, which is what you need to keep houses warm during the winter. It's how you bring in most food. Some food is locally grown, but again, it's December in the mountains. So they have some supplies, but if this continues for a long time, there's going to be a humanitarian catastrophe. And this blockade is designed to make it impossible to live in Nagorno-Karabakh. It's very clear that this is the goal of Azerbaijan, to ethnically cleanse the region.
Yeah, and people are going to say, well, what do they want? What do they really want? They want to ethnically cleanse it. Where does this, hatred come from? Where does this disdain come from? Which I know is a loaded question, but help people understand that a little bit.
I think it is a long history, and there's been a lot of suffering on both sides of this conflict. But what's really important to understand is that the government of Azerbaijan is one of the world's most repressive dictatorships. It's a very wealthy country. They have a lot of money from oil and gas, and the president's family personally owns tens of millions of dollars of real estate in London, for example. So you have a very wealthy ruling family and a population that's actually quite poor. And so if you're that dictator and you want to hold on to power in this country, what do? You find an enemy. You latch onto the enemy and you have an internal war against that enemy. And you say, we have to take back our land from the enemy. And you do things like this, the president of Azerbaijan does. He calls Armenians dogs. He calls them rats. He says we're going to crush them with the mighty fist of the Azerbaijani military. He says we're going to take back our lands and chase out the occupiers. So it's rhetoric that's designed to dehumanize Armenians, to create hatred for Armenians, and to keep the Azerbaijani population in a state of perpetual readiness for war, instead of thinking, why are we actually so poor? Why are the hundreds of thousands of people who lost their homes in the wars not able to go home yet? I think this is the simplest explanation.
What is your biggest fear for the next hours and days and maybe even weeks ahead?
Military conflict. I think this is probably the prelude to an Azerbaijani armed attack on Nagorno-Karabakh. And if that happens and Russia does not step in, Armenia is probably not strong enough to stop them from conquering the whole region. There will be massacres. There will be civilians killed. There will be families killed, most likely. This is what happened during the last war and the war before that. And at the end of it, this land, which is the ancient homeland of the Armenian people, this is where their alphabet was designed. It has some of the oldest churches in the world, will be completely destroyed. And this is not the first time this century that the Armenian people have faced huge parts of the land being destroyed. You had the Armenian genocide in 1915 to 1923, when over 1 million Armenians were murdered and most of their homeland was lost to them forever. And this is just another phase.
Well, and that brings me to Turkey, because we talk about all of these different elements of this. You have another country in the mix, which is Turkey. Talk a little bit, and you mentioned the genocide. Turkey's had a very hard time even admitting or talking about what went on with the Armenian genocide over the years. But talk about Turkey's role in this.
Turkey is absolutely essential. Turkey is the main military ally of Azerbaijan. Turkey basically fights Azerbaijan's wars alongside them whenever they do go to war with Armenia. In 2020 or this year in September, Turkey is there providing air support, providing intelligence, providing bombs, providing pilots, sometimes it seems. And what people need to understand about Turkey is a country that was founded on a genocide of Christians, right? In 1914, probably 25% of the population of what's now Turkey was Christian. Today, it's less than 1%, far less than 1%. This was a nation state that was formed on the idea that only Turks can live here and everyone else has to go. So you said they have a hard time admitting the genocide happened. In fact, they can't.
Right, they won't.
Yeah. They won't, ever. And in order to maintain the myth of the Turkish nation, they will continue to kill Armenian Christians and Greek Christians and Syriac Christians in Syria, wherever they have to.
So your organization, Christian Solidarity International, you do great work, and this is one conflict you have been on top of. There was an alert that went out immediately this week on this issue. What are you hoping to do? How are you hoping to intervene to help and to inspire others to intervene in some way to help in this conflict?
Mm-hmm. Well, CSI does a lot of relief work inside Nagorno-Karabakh. We support a rehabilitation center that treats people with wounds from the wars or with mental or physical disabilities. My boss, Dr. John Eibner, actually talked to the director of the center today, and he said, it's freezing cold today. We don't have electricity. The people here at the center are very afraid. They know an attack could happen at any moment. So we provide aid as we can, but really the only way that Armenian Christians are going to be safe in their homeland is if the United States and the United Kingdom and the European Union get on the same page and say, we will not accept that the Armenian Christians of Nagorno-Karabakh lose their homes. We will not accept that, and make that clear to Turkey and to Azerbaijan. So at CSI, we would like this to be an issue for the whole Christian world. These are our brothers and sisters. This is one of the oldest parts of the body of Christ. Armenia was the first nation to convert to Christianity 30 years before the Roman Empire converted. So this is our responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I so appreciate your time. We will be checking with you on this, and everybody out there can be praying for all the parties involved in this, for our Christian brothers and sisters, and, also for those, in Azerbaijan, for clear minds and to do the right thing, and for American leaders and other world leaders to step in and help do the right thing on this. Joel, as always, appreciate your time.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you so much.